serious.
Now it's pronounced Igor.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Goonies never say die!
Inconceivable!
You're killing me, Smalls.
The first rule of Fight Club is you do not talk about fighting.
To infinity and beyond! Hello to my little friend!
As far as movie monsters go, there are two giants who reign supreme, Godzilla and King Kong. It is seriously hard to find anyone in the world who doesn't know who they are. While Godzilla was groundbreaking in its own right, King Kong came out over 20 years before it. It set the bar high and redefined the genre of movie monsters. I feel like I don't even need to talk about how influential King Kong is because it is a household name like Dracula and Frankenstein, and has inspired filmmakers all over the world. So instead of talking about the story, which you should all know by now, I'm going to focus on some of the unsung heroes of the film, two in particular. The first is stop-motion animator Willis O'Brien. He did a phenomenal job bringing Kong to life. He had prior experience animating dinosaurs in the 1920s in movies like The Ghost of Slumber Mountain and The Lost World. This proved him to be a great choice to do some of the more challenging sequences of the film. Since it was an ambitious project, new techniques had to be created to accomplish some of the signature scenes to make them work. For example, the scene where Anne watches King Kong fight the T-Rex was accomplished using a rear projection technique. This is where a white transparent screen has a pre-recorded stop-motion battle projected behind it, while the actress is filmed in real time on a set. This was pretty innovative for 1933. Many of these techniques were still used all the way up to the early 2000s. However, with the advent of CGI, many films deviated from practical effects as it would now be cheaper to digitally create scenes rather than build them. Willis O'Brien went down as one of the best stop-motion animators of all time and was the main inspiration for Ray Harryhausen, who created some of the best movie monsters of all time, which will be a whole separate video in itself eventually. The second hero I want to talk about is director Miriam Cooper. I know it's strange to think of a director not getting enough credit for a movie, but here's the reason why. After production was finished, the movie had expelled its entire budget and didn't have any money for music. The studio just recommended that they use existing stock music like every other film did at the time, but Cooper knew that the film needed to have its own unique sound. So he took $50,000 of his own money and hired Max Steiner, a Broadway composer, to write what would become the very first cinematic score.
Steiner was starting with nothing. He was starting with a blank slate, a new art form that didn't exist. And he had to pull from music and said, well, I'll start here. And he created a language of a narrative, and the narrative meaning the music is telling the story.
At the time, it revolutionized the way that music would be incorporated into film. Since sound pictures were still in their infancy, this provided much needed progress into what movies could be and would eventually become. As for the composer Max Steiner, this propelled him into superstardom. He went on to compose scores to some of the most iconic films of all time. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, The Wizard of Oz, Gone with the Wind, and Casablanca are just naming a few. The $50,000 risk also paid off for director Miriam Cooper, as King Kong is now widely considered to be one of the greatest films of all time.